Fellow Americans, I'm sure that you can all attest to the fact that we live in a culture that prides itself on individualism, freedom, and opportunity. From a very young age, we are taught about the concept of heroes and icons in American society. People who succeed against all odds, make the
Here with another crazy reaction video, as you see by the title. We do this reaction videos every day, and welcome to the channel. And we accept everybody and anybody. We do videos like this every day. We do crazy videos like this every day. Dropping all my videos at 10. I'm sorry that I have that background voice talking. I gotta mute it. Sorry. It was something I was watching. But, yeah. Let's get into the video.
Fellow Americans, I'm sure that you can all attest to the fact that we live in a culture that prides itself on individualism, freedom, and opportunity. From a very young age, we are taught about the concept of heroes and icons in American society. People who succeed against all odds, make the right choice in morally ambiguous situations, and people who have the courage and conviction to stand for their principles even in the face of horrible consequences. These archetypes embody the fundamental concepts of a modern day
about what he's about to talk about here.
American hero. And they also represent the choices and character of a 20-year-old college football player named Keon Green. Now, as a quick side note, I'm not sure if it's actually pronounced Keon or Quan, but I'm gonna say Keon throughout this video because that's what pleases my southern accent. But we'll get to Keon's story in a moment, and every good story needs a good villain. This is San Jose police officer Mark McNamara, and in the early morning hours of March 27, 2022, he was working the scene of a homicide at the intersection of 4th Street and San Carlos in the heart of San Jose, California. A shooting had occurred a few minutes prior that resulted in a fatality, and the officers were roping off the area and preparing the scene for their detectives to initiate the investigation process. It was around this time that Keon entered a nearby taco place called La Victoria Taqueria. Now, judging by the surveillance footage that you're going to watch here in a minute, I wouldn't call this place the most prestigious establishment, if you know what I mean. It was full of people who had stayed out on a Saturday night long enough for it to become Sunday. So you can imagine the rather eclectic nature of the people who come together at that specific place and time. Prior to Keon entering the restaurant, an individual identified as Brian Carter entered the taco joint, along with two unidentified friends of his. From what I've gathered, both Brian and his friends may have been highly intoxicated by the time they got to the restaurant. Now, another aspect of American culture that I didn't mention earlier, and it's one that we happen to share with cultures worldwide, is that we like to get drunk and fight each other. And it looks like that's exactly what Brian and his friends intended to do. Alright, full transparency, we only have so much of the surveillance footage to draw any conclusions from. But
you know how this go down. You know when they get intoxicated, they get crazy, they get under the influence. That will be a charge of drinking with alcohol. And
looks to me like Brian and his large friend were talking smack to Keon when the big man decided to throw a sucker punch at him. And that's when Keon absolutely wrecked this dude's shit with a nasty right cross that put this tree trunk of a man down immediately. And from there, the fight broke out with Keon ultimately landing on top of the dude that tried to sucker punch him and giving him the Dagestani style ground and pound enchilada that he had ordered. Brian tried to come over and assist his friend, but a random guy
explain it because there's a lot going on in the video, and I couldn't find the original video to this. I couldn't find the cop video to this. I couldn't find
The fight was still on. At one point, Keon managed to get up and actually make his way to the front door of the taqueria, but he wasn't about to leave the random guy who jumped in to help save him, so he went right back in knowing that a gun could be fired at him at any moment. Keon managed to fight his way back into the restaurant, and with the help of the random dude, he was able to wrestle the gun away from Brian. Once he gained control of the firearm, Keon actually backed away from his attackers momentarily in what appears to be an attempt to de-escalate the situation. Now, by this time, the people who were pouring out of the taqueria had caught the attention of the San Jose officers who were working the nearby homicide scene, including Officer McNamara. The officers had received reports of someone with a gun, so they all rushed over to the restaurant thinking that whoever was inside there must be related to the homicide that they were currently investigating. While the officers were making their way to the restaurant, the momentary peace that Keon had managed to establish by taking possession of the firearm was quickly dissolving. Just as the officers arrived at the front steps of the taqueria, Brian launched another attack at Keon in an attempt to regain control of the firearm. Keon was doing his best to keep separation and exit the situation as quickly as possible without having to use the firearm, but as Brian pushed him out the door of the restaurant, Keon was met by several San Jose officers.
You are big and strong, and you climb giant mountains and hills, and you catch all the mice in the world.
Officer McNamara was the only officer to discharge his weapon out of the 8 officers that were on the scene, and he shot Keon a total of 4 times. As you can see from the footage, there was less than 3 seconds of time that passed between Officer McNamara issuing a verbal command to him discharging his firearm. And Keon clearly had his hands in the air as soon as he realized what was going on, but by that time it was too late. Now, normally there might be an argument to be made that Keon being shot by Officer McNamara was the result of poor judgment on the officer's part due to the psychological priming of having just worked a homicide scene that involved a shooting. And the same can be said for Keon. I can only imagine how difficult it would be to go from fighting for your life to realizing the police are there and that they're not part of the threat. And in my opinion, the fact that Keon was able to realize what was going on and make a legitimate attempt to surrender within 3 seconds is very impressive, even if it didn't save him from being shot. Keon ultimately survived this incident after having to endure emergency surgery, but it was what happened after the shooting that revealed the true character of Officer McNamara, and it paints this whole situation in a
he done pretty much said it all. It says a lot about the officer. Now he like, you're supposed to say something verbally before you shoot somebody at least like 3 or 4 times.
Totally different light. The shooting immediately erupted a firestorm in the community, and Keon filed a lawsuit about a week later. By this time, the story had already reached mainstream news outlets, and just over a month after Keon filed his lawsuit, the surveillance and body camera footage was released, and Officer McNamara was named as the shooter.
Details tonight about the man shot by police after a fight at a busy taqueria in San Jose. Both police and the man's lawyers say the man wounded had a gun after taking it away from someone else during a scuffle, but the attorney says his client is a hero.
Now, obviously, this added a lot of fuel to the fire for the San Jose community that was outraged by this incident. But Keon's case quietly proceeded through the courts, and this story eventually left the mainstream news cycle. For almost 2 years following the incident, Officer McNamara remained on administrative leave. Even though the city had been sued and an investigation into the shooting was ongoing, Officer McNamara still had his job. In June of 2023, Officer McNamara was deposed as part of Keon's lawsuit, and this is what he had to say about his actions that day.
Do you feel like Is there anything that you want Keon Green to know? Meaning you're sorry for shooting him or anything like that?
Every time I've ever had to use force on somebody, it makes me feel bad. I don't like hurting people. I'm not a monster, right? I'm a human being just like everybody else in this room. So regardless of the circumstances, of course, I would want anyone that I use force on to know, hey, I'm sorry. It's a bitter part of my job. Sometimes it has to be done. As far as Mr. Green, yeah, you know, I don't know what the relationship was. I know you disclosed earlier. I don't know if there was anything tied in with the homicide or what Mr. Green was doing. I don't know about the huge fight inside. I don't know who they were, what they were doing. Nobody's really filled me in. So if you're telling me that Mr. Green was not related to the homicide, yeah, it's very unfortunate.
And so you would apologize to Mr. Green for shooting him?
If he was here right now, I would say, I'm sorry. I would apologize to every single, and I have. If you go through my body-worn camera, I've apologized. I apologize to almost everybody I use force on. I don't like doing it. It doesn't make me feel good. So.
And especially where you may have essentially hurt someone that was actually trying to just protect themselves from being injured, right? Being using force against someone that's maybe committing a crime is one thing, but incidentally using force against someone that was merely trying to protect themselves is something that you probably feel it's kind of worse than the other, right?
You have to understand that people who think like that, who have a heavy remorse after the facts, right? They don't usually last in law enforcement. So I can't live my life saying, well, now that it's been, over a year, almost 2 years, and we have all of these facts, I can't go back and say, man, I made the wrong decision. I didn't make the wrong decision. I took the totality of the circumstances and I acted to the best of my training and knowledge and ability. And, you know, I think if you look into my file, you'll see that I've used force many times, 0 IA complaints, right? Because it's always been necessary. I always do what I have to do. So you're asking, does it make it worse that Mr. Green wasn't related to the homicide?
Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free. Plus, get your biggest refund. Roughly 37% of filers.
Not for me.
So according to Officer McNamara, he was just doing...
Do I think he's a bad officer for doing this? Yeah. Before I heard his why, but you gotta hear him out. He was using his ability and his authority, and he wasn't overusing his authority. And this is why I say why. Why he probably shot, and this is not racist or nothing. He probably shot because we, as black people, coming from a true black person, honestly, we act crazy out in public with a group of boys. Especially as a man, and not saying this to offend nobody. But yeah, we do. If you got some value from this video, please subscribe and hit that. And please subscribe and follow my new channel. I would love for you to go on a journey with me.